Hello and welcome to On the Other Hoof. We are back after an enforced 2 weeks absence, courtesy of BT. Thank you very much for that, BT. But we are back after 2 weeks away. We have plenty of good action as well tomorrow, courtesy of Newbury and also Doncaster. Plenty of good action elsewhere as well. Super Saturday at Maidan, as well as many clouds. The Grand National winner back in action up at Kelso as he puts the final string to his bow for his Grand National preparation of 2016. Also, some good fast track qualifiers at Lingfield to have a little chat about a bit later on. Our focus, though, will be on Doncaster and also Newbury. The feature race of the day comes up at 3:45. That is the Grimthorpe Chase. We have a bit of a disappointing turnout, it has to be said. Only 7 going to post. Ikarodu Road, an early non-runner that's just come through. So only 7 going to post for the Grimthorpe, but for one time and one time only, we have a bit of a surprise for you here on the Other Hoof, because we have a few illnesses throughout the camp. One of them was courtesy of Michael Andrews. But Michael, I'm glad to see that you're still alive and you have made it for On the Other Hoof.
Yeah, I've recovered after a week on the sidelines, shall we say? Not as long as Sprinter Sacra, but you know, we'll save that for Nicky Henderson to employ. But no, I'm better now. But it sounds like Adam's contracted some disease from Runcorn. So
yeah. We'll just go through the illnesses. Michael has shaken off a bout of Ebola to be on this show tonight. Callum is homesick. He's not really homesick, he's just at home. And Adam's disgust, so you know, we can't really judge him too hard on that. But Michael, thank you for joining us this evening. It's a rare appearance. We don't get you on here much anymore, do we?
No, I don't really turn up. I don't really, I have other stuff to do on Fridays normally.
Yeah, Michael does actually have a life. So unlike us, we have very little of that. I would say what our naps were last time. Michael didn't do them, and the only one that ever remembers our naps is Adam. So there's no real point in dwelling on that. I'm sure it was a loser in that regard. But it's not bad racing tomorrow, is it, Michael? We've got plenty of handicaps, which is usually your forte, and usually managed to come up with a couple of winners.
Exactly, that was the only way you managed to tease me on tonight with the big handicap focus, which is obviously what I normally like to get stuck into, and I will do so again tomorrow for tonight.
And also we will have a bit of a look forward to Cheltenham a little bit later on, just 10 days and counting now until the start of the Cheltenham Festival, if you're watching this on Saturday, of course. But also we're doing something a bit different. We're trying to glam it up a little bit here on the Other Hoof. So Michael, we're doing Michael Andrews versus Luke Elder this evening in a tipping contest. We're putting one horse up each in each race, and well, there is no prize. It's just pride, really.
I love how we didn't discuss this. We just said it's going to be you versus me. You've already worked out the rules exactly as I had them in my head. So it sounds good.
Well, in fairness, they're very basic rules.
I'll forgive that. They are pretty straightforward. But yeah, we were trying to think of I was trying to think of not really a winning prize, but a prize for the loser. As a booby prize. But if you can come up with anything, I couldn't think of anything that was actually funny and legal all in the same sentence. So yeah, if you can come up with anything, then we'll be interested to see what terrible things you want us to get up to. But yeah, we'll go from there.
University has corrupted you. As always, you can get in touch with us here at On The Other Hoof. At On The Other Hoof is our Twitter tag. We'll be reading out all questions and fancies going forward at the end of the show. Get your fancies in for tomorrow, Sunday's action, next week's action, even the Cheltenham Festival in just 10 days' time, if you have a bit of a view on any of the races. Also, we'd like to hear your worst anti-post bets for the Cheltenham Festival. I'll be revealing mine a little bit later on. If Michael has any, then he'll be revealing his as well. But
I have one from last year, which will be good enough, but I actually haven't had any anti-post bets this year.
That's the life of a student. But also, I just want to put out there, we don't want to hear your worst ones. We want to give you a bit of glory as well. So send in your best Cheltenham anti-post bets. I'll be happy to read those out at the end of the show. 8 races to cover this evening then, Michael. The first one coming up at 1:45 at Newbury. The Betfair Supporting Greatwood Veterans Handicap Hurdle at 2 miles 4 furlongs and 118 yards. 10 horses go. Just post. And that's me making that noise.
It sounded like Callum's cat again.
Huh?
That was like Callum's cat. Is it high pitched as Callum's cat?
I'm blaming your laptop. We never get proper with that. Michael, your thoughts on the first.
Yeah, it's difficult. This, you've got to kind of consider that possibly Alofi really does set the standard. I think probably between Alofi and Spice Fair. Spice Fair is very consistent in good form at the moment. Obviously, haven't been out the first 3 this season. Alofi, pretty good run when 6 behind Solstice Star at Cheltenham last time, but I'm not quite sure about him staying the next couple of furlongs. I think it was over 2 miles with 1 furlong there. It's 2 miles 3 today. So I'd be questionable about his attitude in that regard. His form figures, okay, they have been in competitive handicaps, don't read too well. If he's going to win, though, this is a very good chance for him to win, especially off only 11 stone 8 in this quite tightly packed handicap. But the one I'd actually side with, and it took me a while to come across this, is boringly the favourite Rock Gone, because it's just so hard to knock his form, really. Really good run at Doncaster when he won. There didn't really beat much, but he won impressively. And then I thought it was a really nice effort at Plumpton next time behind Billy No Name. Obviously had Cannon Fodder in behind, who's a very, very good tough mare in her own right. I'm not quite sure that she really lived up quite to her form, but if she did, then that's clearly the best form, best progressive form from Rock Gone. He's not really run that many times in comparison to most of the other runners in this race. So it's the progressive one. He's not as what's the word? He's only had a few starts in comparison to the others. Billy No Name's a pretty decent horse in his own right as well, and Rock Gone was staying on pretty well at the finish. So I think, although it's a slight drop in trip, I think they'll possibly go a better pace here, and I think Rock Gone's really the one to beat. So yeah, I'll go with Rock Gone. It's boring, but Rock Gone's the winner.
Yeah, an interesting start from you. I'm going to take you on. And go for a different angle. Do you want to mute yourself? I can hear you going back.
Okay.
That's Michael's laptop. I'm going to blame there. Apologies for that. We'll have Michael back in a second. I thought Spice Fair would be the one to side with on this. Rock Gone's been in fantastic form, as we've seen in the last few runs for Dr. Richard Newland. Spice Fair has been in equally as good form. A winner 2 outings ago, been running very well. Also, hasn't been out of the first 3 in his last 4 attempts. The form in his last race at Taunton at the time didn't look all that great, but Tornado in Milan has franked that form, winning just the other day. Also back in 4th, I think it was Winged Express for the Alex Dunn team, has also won, albeit over fences, has been in fantastic form. So the form of that race looks absolutely fantastic for a Taunton handicap hurdle. Coming into this is a little bit stronger than he has been contesting the last few runs, and he is off a much higher mark. 126 last time, 114 the time before that. It's 127 tomorrow. But the Mark Usher Yard don't have a great deal of hurdlers. I think they've only got a very small handful of them. Wayne Hutchinson, a good jockey booking. He rides a lot for the yard as well. 11-2. That could be a fair enough price about Spice Fair. I thought Bonobo as well, if proving his stamina, it's going to be very testing tomorrow as well. I think Bonobo for Evan Williams, who've had a pretty decent season so far, and Paul Maloney has not been long back from injury. It could be more of an each way angle towards this race, but he has been off for 108 days, so do keep that into account. But I think Spice Fair would be the one to beat. However, as Michael mentioned, I do really respect a Rock Gone for win purposes, and he's probably the one they all have to beat, as the market is suggesting. Off to Doncaster now, though, at 42. This is the watch live racing on betbright.com. Handicap chase, 2 miles and 90 yards. Michael, 6 runners. More but select field.
Yeah, this is really difficult because as the market suggests, there's very little in between all 6 runners, to be honest. Astigo is just the bookie's favourite from what I see at 7-2 ahead of Pearl's Legend, and I think we're probably going to come out thinking the same here, in that Pearl's Legend is such a consistent, probably the best form on offer as well. Especially he's been running in some really good handicaps. As you said just off air, he's hoping to go to the Cheltenham Festival. Did you think that he probably going to need to win this to get in to the Grand Annual, the last race at the festival? And I think that he's clearly got the form to do it. It's just I've really struggled with this race. Really struggled. It's meant to be a handicap, but it's too select, I think. Mountain King I've always been a big fan of, but his last race run wasn't that impressive. One thing I would say, though, is Richard Johnson is riding out of his skin at the moment. And obviously Philip Hobbs is a very willing training partner as well. So for me, it's between those two. And as I think you're going to go with Pearl's Legend, I may as well give a shout out to Mountain King, shall I? then at least we have a bit more of a contest rather than just going for Pearl's Legend. But I think it's a very tough race between them, and I think any 6 of them can win, as in any race, but I think especially in this one.
I wouldn't disagree. It is a completely wide open race. Do you want to mute yourself again? There we go. Pearl's Legend is the one I'm siding with along with Michael. I think he's the one they've all got to beat. He rarely runs a bad race. Last time was probably the worst race he's run in a long, long time. It wasn't all that bad in truth, but he has been on the go for quite a while. He has had a bit of a break for the John Spearing Yard as well. He's not too far out the weights as well. For the Grand Annual going forward, off a mark of 138, I think the top weight is 159. That's top gamble. He wouldn't miss out by a great deal, but a win tomorrow would cement his place in that field, and that has been the ultimate goal throughout the whole of the season. Jamie Moore gets on very well with him. He gets the leg back up on board Pearl's Legend tomorrow, and it could just be a case that it's a small field that he's allowed to dominate, and that's the way that he runs best. If he's just allowed to go out in front, do his own thing, and he's very tough to pass in that regard. Ones you have to give respect to, Astagos has been running well. Obviously, Aidan Coleman not on board tomorrow. Alan Corley takes the ride. Aidan Coleman elsewhere. I think Mountain King, Michael gave ultimate respect to him, but could be Yorkis that's left down to pick up the pieces for second place. He's been a very progressive horse over the last season or so for the Mickey Hammond team. Mark of 131. He came back to a bit of form last time out. That was the first time tongue tie as well. That's kept on. Joe Colliver takes a further £3 off. A mark of 134 isn't beyond him, as he's proved in the past. I think Yorkist could be the main danger to Pearl's Legend, but like we say, if Pearl's Legend does really want to go to the Cheltenham Festival and go to the Grand Annual, he's going to have to be winning, or at least going close tomorrow. I think he'll take a lot of beating, in total honesty, for John Spearing and also Jamie Moore. We go off to Newbury though next. For the 2:15, the Betway supporting Greatwood Veterans handicap chase over 3 miles 1 furlong and 214 yards. 13 going post. A wide open veteran chase.
This is perfect. This is exactly what I love about jump racing. When you see this kind of racing, you completely can sink your teeth into it. I think the market's got it right. I think the top 4 in the top 4 or 5 in the market are the ones that you want to be looking towards. First of all, if you take Pete the Feet, that is the best form on offer, really. Absolutely, he's such a lovable horse. He normally goes out from the front and sees if they can catch him. He's obviously had quite a long time off. He missed nearly over just under 2 years, before he came back this season. And he's just got beaten by Le Rev last time. He's obviously a very good horse in his own right, over 3 miles at Sandown. It's from a very low weight now. It seems to be pretty well handicapped, and I don't think carrying 10 stone 9 is bad at all in this field. I think, in fact, he's well handicapped, and this looks like he's going to be the one that he's going to win. If I have to talk about the others, same difference I'd be worried about. I think you just want to leave him for a minute, just find out where he is, obviously with Warren Greatrex now. And obviously he was also the King Mule winner, and I was a big fan of him, as you said earlier, Luke. He was actually in my horses to follow back in the season of 2014, was it? 2013 to 14, or 13 to 14, I think it must have been, a couple of years ago. Shot of Vodka is another horse that he just flatters to receive so much this season. He's been so frustrating. His run behind Wakanda at Newcastle, I thought this is a horse ready to win. And then he's just not really shown enough in the last few starts. And then once again behind St. R, he ran really well without really properly looking like he was going to win. Once again, he runs well here. I have a feeling he might be price-wise now, looking at the prices. And he's very well handicapped from 10 stone 3. So I would be worried about Shot of Vodka, but I think Pete the Feet at 5-1 is a very good price. And as boring as it sounds, that'll be the horse I'll be selecting.
I'm going to have to boring you again. Have you got any headphones?
Yeah, I'll find them.
Right, okay. You're going to mute yourself while you're doing that. See, whenever Michael comes back, we get problems then. So we apologise for that noise. Michael will get headphones as he pulls a concerned face. I think Pete the Feet is the one that everyone's got to beat here. It's a veterans chase. A lot of them are out of form. Pete the Feet is very much in form. A good second at Sandown last time out, taking on Le Rev. Le Rev isn't a veteran. He'd be by far the best of these at this stage anyway, in their career. He's still fairly sprightly and he's got the Grand National as his ultimate aim. He's also been running very well over the last couple of seasons. That form looks absolutely rock solid. So also his run went fourth behind Lackamon in the Yorkshire National the time before. isn't that bad a form either. I think everything points towards another massive run from Peter Fee, and I think it's a massive positive as well. Aidan Coleman is back on once more. He's a 12-year-old, but he doesn't seem to know that. He jumps for fun out in front. Everything seemingly going his way at the moment. Off a mark of 133, he could still be well handicapped, especially in these veterans chases, which he's shown a liking for throughout the course of the season. Of the others, it was great to see Pinot de Rey back in a bit of form 2 outings ago. He's since disappointed, but he has been running fairly well all season. Interesting that Dr. Richard Newland has put cheap pieces back on him. 12-1 could be an each-way play for him. Arkin, another one that if he just leaves that poor run behind last time, he's been in fantastic form all season. Disappointed last time, as mentioned. Charlie Deutsch gets on so well with him. Takes £5 off, but 150, maybe a little bit on the steep side as a mark for him. 10-1. I'm not sure whether that would be a price that would entice me to play. I think he's got bigger range further down the line as well. I think Peter Fee is the one that myself and Michael are going to agree on, and he's the one that everyone's got to beat. Same difference, could put up a bit of fight against him if finding his old form for Warren Greatrex and Gavin Sheehan. But Michael, I'm afraid we're completely agreeing once again. Peter Fee is the one that they all have to beat.
Yeah, there's not much I can say to that.
It's going to be a theme. It's going to be a theme because we agree a lot whenever you're on.
Yeah, we normally do. We do have a very good record, though. There was once that Royal Ascot time where we napped 3 times together out of the 5 days, and all 3 of them won, I believe. We do have a pretty good record. Yeah.
We had a tweet from Hattie Fuller actually saying, "Held my ears." So I'm glad it wasn't just me that was hearing that. Michael does cause complete chaos whenever he comes back on, but nonetheless, we have fixed the problem now. So Hattie, you can live on with your ears intact. So we go to Doncaster for the 235. The BetBright Casino handicap hurdle over 3 miles and 96 at yards. 9 have turned up. It's an interesting race, this, Michael. It's a wide open handicap once again. The 0 Shades of Grey looked to be back to somewhere near his best when winning here at Doncaster 2 outings ago. Disappointed badly last time, though.
Yeah, I like how you do long intros, so you manage so I can catch up on getting to the right web page while I'm waiting for you to.
I do it myself as well. Internet here is shockingly slow.
Yeah, this is again an interest. It's a really good race. If I can find, oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. I've been a massive fan of Balmuzet. I've said it on Twitter before when I thought that she was going to run a really good race 3 starts back at this course behind Red Devil Boys, and she ran really well when she was 4th. But the way that she won at Doncaster last February, in fact, was when she beat Dolly Milan. Just the way, the turn of foot she showed there. It's just a shame that she hasn't really managed to capitalise on that since. Obviously went on the flat for a couple of starts and they didn't really go very well. But it's been really disappointing, really. Good, especially the last run at Doncaster. I can't get over that. And I'm actually going to have to avoid her again here. We've got very interesting in that Fingertips, the horse that was meant to be really good. So it was really short price. And then we all realised that he was terrible. And then he goes and stays on really well behind Different Gravy last time when he was at a pretty big price. So the Upton Trip, I think that's a really good decision. So I think, and especially off 10 stone 9, that's but he's only a 4-year-old. That's a really hard judgment call. But I'm going to stick with, and I have a feeling you might think this as well, so that's a worry, with 0 Shades of Grey, who comes across as just a very solid horse. His win 2 starts ago. It's good enough form to win this, in my opinion. And then a decent run behind Count Guidodero, who I think led from pillar to post. Last time in a pretty decent race with Sykes from the Hobbs Yard and Keltis as well from Nichols. I think 0 Shades of Grey sets a really solid standard here. 11 stone 12. That does make me think twice about it. And you've got to consider What a Night, who has I haven't seen that jockey before though. Who's is it
Liam McKenna? He's Harry Fry's conditional this year. He's a decent jockey, good value for a 7 actually. Yeah.
I've heard his name, but I haven't seen it written down. Clearly shows how much attention I've been paying to this National Hunt season.
You've been very for the last year, in fairness.
Very consistent horse. Who obviously was second behind Emerging Force in the race that Balmuzet ran in last month. And that's a pretty decent form line to go from. So personally, it's between 0 Shades of Grey and What a Night. And I have a feeling you might be going 0 Shades of Grey. So I'll go with What a Night because that's such. Or are you not?
No, you haven't mentioned the one I'm going for.
Oh, okay. I will stick with. I'll go What a Night. I think that last run was pretty impressive. Although I'm very worried about zero shades of grey. Everyone knows how many shades of grey I enjoy.
You're wearing grey tonight as well, so
Yeah.
this is written in the stars. We should mention as well, Bears Affair has just come through as a non-runner, so only 8 going to post for this race. I want to say as well, it was brilliant to see Clark's Choice back. I think he was 1/6 in a champion hurdle. He was a very classy individual. 553 days off. Really happy to see him back on a race course tomorrow. I think his chances are very limited, and he'll have bigger options further down the line. I think the one that they've all got to beat, other than What a Night, has got some fantastic form in the book and a good £7 claimer on board, is Waterclock, who has been running well enough over hurdles. He's a fairly classy flat horse as well, not too long ago. Stamina's going to be no issue for him whatsoever. But his last couple of races, he's been behind a fair few nice types. One for Harry took his race 2 outings ago back at Wetherby, then once again at Wetherby, is beaten under 10 lengths by Servinsky, who again is not not bad horses to be beaten by, which is a horrible use of the English language. I apologise for that. But I think Waterclock, about 6-1, could represent a bit of value for Mickey Hammond, who's in form. They went close to one today with Oscar O'Scar, Finian O'Toole riding on that occasion. Joe Colliver takes the ride tomorrow, taking a further £3 off. 125. I still don't think that mark is beyond him. You have to agree with Michael and what he said about fingertips, and could still be very much unexposed. Should effectively be carrying 11 stone 5, because fingertips as a 4-year-old is only carrying 10 stone 9, which could help in this sort of ground. But I think Waterclock would be the one to side with. I think it's probably the wrong term to use. I don't trust Zero Shades of Grey. Even when winning at Doncaster 2 outings ago, didn't jump all that well. Should have won a lot easier than he actually did. The form is okay of that race, but he does need to take a big step up on what he showed that day, and an even bigger step up on what he showed last time at Newbury, when travelling fairly well into the race, in a race that not a great deal got into. But nonetheless, he does have to leave that form a long, long way behind him. What looks to be a fairly competitive race tomorrow. We're going to go back now to Newbury, where Zero Shades of Grey, ironically, got beaten last time out for the 250. This is the Ladbroke supporting Greywood handicap hurdle, over 2 miles and 69 yards, 11 going to post here, Michael. I imagine this is, it could well be a race that there's a bit of value in anyway, because St. Charles hasn't been seen for 385 days since being beaten by Thistlecrack fairly comprehensively at Ascot last year. However, no shame in that form whatsoever, as we've now learned.
Yeah, this is, you can split this into 2 kind of fields of horses, basically. You've got the horses who are running well, possibly at a lower level, that are in form, who have actually been running at the time at this time. And then you've got the horses who are probably the better horses, but haven't had a run for, say, 385 days for St. Charles. Ratheli, just under 300. And then horses like Gable the Great hasn't had for nearly 100 as well. And Boite, that's the other one I've meant, over 200 on the flat and over nearly a year on jumps. So I think you kind of split them into 2 different camps. You've got Gala Bull, Wells de Lune, and King's Bayonet, you would probably include in that kind of grouping of horses who are in a really good form. Gala Bull seeking a hat-trick here for the Tom O'Brien, Philip Hobbs, and Wells de Lune run really, really well, and it has very much a light weight of 10 stone 5 here for Charlie Youngson.
Can I just interrupt? Just noticed. Say number 2 quickly, and just together as one word.
Gala Bull.
Gullible. I don't know if that's what they're going for here, but I just noticed that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, but you can have a Gala Bull, can't you? Like a gala, a ball for the gala. That's quite normal. I didn't notice that. Anyway, I really like Boite. I really like Boite as a horse, but I worry about the layoff. I don't think it's a problem for the Greatrix yard. And St. Charles, you've got to look at that form and just go, basically, if St. Charles is fit, which you'd think from Nicky Henderson's yard, he probably should. I can't see him having a big issue. It doesn't look as though he's actually had a problem. He's just been waiting for better ground. He beat Working Progress at Doncaster. That's decent form. And then second, only beaten a short margin by Thistlecrack. Obviously, that's, you can't take that form completely literally, because there's nothing in behind really that came across as anything that, well, Siribad's all right, but there's nothing that's really strong form, nothing to the level of Thistlecrack. But basically, if St. Charles is at the level he's at, 5-2 is a huge price. If he's not, then it's a bit on the short side. and I'd probably size up with Gala Ball. He's in really good form at the moment. Seen off two horses at Wincanton, both starts. Carries 11 stone 5. That's not a problem, I don't think. It's a hard race to sum up because it's a very kind of bipolar system you've got to kind of work out. Do you go with St. Charles being on form and without a problem, or do you go with the horses that you know are in form? Wells de Lune only off 10 stone 5 and Gala Ball. It's hard. I think I'm gonna go with St. I think I'm gonna go with St. Charles actually being fit, and I think 5-2 is a big price.
I always say here on the other hoof that conviction is something that we really do go for. And if you're not convinced by Michael's preview of St. Charles,
I use this to talk my way through what I actually think. Like, I start off thinking, I don't know what horse I want. And then by the time I finished, I've been convinced myself what I actually would like to back.
Great work. I will also add about St. Charles is that he's got 2 Cheltenham entries, one in the Coral Cup and then one in the Martin Pipe as well. So if he wants to get into the Coral Cup, probably the Martin Pipe also, he would have to be going close tomorrow, especially the Coral Cup. He'd probably have to win to get in for as far as tomorrow is concerned anyway. So I'd imagine he'd be about 90% fit. They wouldn't want to have him really forward for tomorrow in case he does get in at Cheltenham and he goes there being a little bit over the top. But St. Charles, completely, as Michael said, he's very much well handicapped on that form with Thistlecrack last year. If he is fit enough, he should be taking a lot of beating. However, these kind of horses I do like to oppose, especially off the back of 385 days off. It's just finding a case of what you're going to oppose him with. There's 2 horses that I quite liked in this field. I was on William Hill Radio the other day, and a horse called Wells de Lune won at Fontwell, won by a wide margin. Richard Johnson waited round for that ride as well. It could just be that Wells de Lune is a very well handicapped horse. Now, off a mark of 112 with the £7 penalty, the same mark he won off just the other day in a much weaker race. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't the strongest of races at Fontwell. I think he won it by 21 lengths in the end. And you look at the form of his races when he was running in novice hurdles, they're not actually that bad at all. He was running against the likes of Lil Rockefeller, also Klein last time, or 2 outings ago at Warwick. The races aren't that bad, especially when you keep them in contrast to this, and also keep in contrast at the mark of 112, effectively at 119 with that £7 penalty. He will go up further in the future. Wells de Lune is one that you have to respect very seriously, but the main fancy in the race is one at a bigger price for David Pipe and Tom Scudamore. Gabriel the Great is a horse that was with Donald McCain. He was a horse I'd always look forward to seeing over hurdles, but he won a few, and then he probably reached his limit, to be quite honest. But a mark of 126 now has him very well handicapped for me. He was as high, I think, of 135 at his peak when with Donald McCain. 1 run for David Pipe. That was a fair while ago, 93 days ago, when 4th of 5 at Wincanton. Do take into account that form of that race isn't all that bad either, and he was beaten under 10 lengths, so it's not as bad as it looks on paper. But the main thing I wanted to point out is tongue-tied for the first time in unison with the hood that he's had for quite a while. Plus, he's been off for 93 days. I don't want to put any words in anyone's head, but that screams it could be a potential breathing operation for Gabriel the Great. Also, he has got an entry in the county hurdle going forward to Cheltenham. Not saying he's going to make it into that because of a mark of 126. Tomorrow, he'd have to win, and win by a bloody long way to be getting into the county hurdle. If he goes up £14, then he might just sneak in at the bottom, but that's a big might. I think tomorrow they're 12-1. If I am right in saying that he may well be a breathing operation recipient, even with the tongue tie, he could be a lot better than that mark suggests, especially now with David Pipe. A lot of the Rooney horses have been improving for their switch of yards. So I side with Gabriel the Great for David Pipe and Tom Scudamore in the 250 at Newbury. Probably an each way price anyway at 12-1. As we go off now to Doncaster for the 310. 2 more visits to Doncaster, 1 more visit back to Newbury. 3 more races in total. The 310 at Doncaster, though, is the Bet Bright Mares Novices Hurdle, a listed race over 3 miles and 96 yards. It is the only handicap or non-handicap race that we're covering here, Michael, but it is a pretty good race as well.
Yeah, quality really. I'd just like to say Brary Queen won today, a horse that I like, and now Luke tells me that he also likes her, even though I
like before you, but
quite early on. But actually, Brary Bell ran in the same race as her at Toaster when they started out, and I think Brary Bell's really progressing quite nicely lately. Was 8th behind a hairbreadth at Cheltenham 3 starts ago. Then again, only beaten 4 lengths by Lily War in a handicap in December, and then went on and won, beating Caton's Joy at Huntingdon last time out. That's good form as covers Graceful Legend, and I think she won that pretty well, staying on. And I think the step up and trip will only suit her. One horse though that I'm really happy has finally gone up to 3 miles, because I think she's been calling out for it for ages, is Holly's Pearl, about 6 to 1 for the Bowen Yard. Sounds like Luke also fancies Holly's Pearl from that look.
Nope, can't jump.
Quite. Oh, okay, can't tell. But I think the Bowen Yard lately has been under a bit of a shadow. I can't remember looking so recently, but definitely before that was struggling. But now a couple of wins in the last 6 or 7 starts. Looks to be in a bit better form than he was over the Christmas period. So that'd be good to see. I think the step up and trip for Holly's Pearl been calling out for ages. She's clearly a classy mare. Sorry, beat Chocka Wocka, who's another horse that we argue over who likes first. Her mare form as a national hunt flat horse is just outstanding, and I think she's just really needed to step up. The horses that have beaten her are decent in themselves. Renee's Girl at Warwick when she was over 2 miles 5. That was a good horse to be beaten by. I don't know so much about Prince of Steel, who beat her at Fakenham last time, but I do think that Holly's Pearl will appreciate this step up to 3 miles, and I think she's the one to beat on known form from there.
The one where I've got with Holly's Pearl is she is learning, in fairness to her, is that when she first started out with a hurdle, she was a horrible jumper. She couldn't make a shape at all, and really her class was just getting her home. Obviously, she was a very, very good bumper horse last season, winning the Grade 2 over at Aintree, but hurdles are just getting in the way, especially at this level. That could find her out a little bit. But there is a horse in here that I absolutely adore. I've loved throughout the whole of this season. Is for Oliver Sherwood in The Organist, who's been in good form throughout the whole of the season. Won a nice little race at Huntingdon to start things off over hurdles, won it very nicely as well. There's been a fair few nice horses come from the back, from the rear of that field in behind her that afternoon. But she went on to form well, didn't really learn a great deal about her when she was 1 to 7 and she bolted up by however many lengths that she really wanted. But at Leicester last time out, I was a bit disappointed that she got beaten, especially in the manner that she got beaten by Tara Flo. In fairness, Tara Flo is a good horse, went on to listed action next time out of Sandown, got soundly beaten, but the Organist was dropping down in trip on that occasion, down to 2 miles, straight back up to 3 miles tomorrow afternoon. I think the Organist, with Richard Johnson back on board, Leighton Aspel obviously up at Kelso tomorrow to ride Many Clouds. I think 7 to 2 is a huge price about the Organist. The trip's going to be perfect for her tomorrow. The ground's going to be perfect. I think she can really show what she can do. I was looking forward to her being maybe a horse for the Mares Novice at Cheltenham. However, running this close to the festival, I doubt that'll be a real aim for her. She could be an entry horse for later on in the season, but tomorrow I'd be disappointed if the Organist wasn't taking this race, albeit it is a fairly hot one. I'd be siding without doubt with the Organist stepping up to 3 miles as we go off to Newbury for their feature race of the day, the 3:25, the StanJames.com supporting Greatwood Gold Cup over 2 miles, 3 furlongs and 187 yards. 14 go to post here, Michael. We could, however, only have 13 for 7 Sky, is one that we're going to talk about for the Grimthorpe a little bit later on. This is his second preference.
Yeah, this race, it's an interesting race, and I know my second choice, Sametigal, is, I think, your choice. At least you're going to talk about Sametigal. I think he's got some really decent form on offer, particularly when he was second behind whatever horse beat him last time out. I can't really remember. 5 in a row, who won since, that's what I'm talking about. And then also he was second, more of that. You can't take that form literally. But the horse that I'm surprised is so big in the market, and I know everyone probably has got their bingo cards out. I'm obviously going to talk about the Eddie Cleo horse in Pythagore. This is to not be 11 to 1. On no form is this horse 11 to 1. Don't get me wrong, I can't judge it up completely, but 11 to 1 is an insult. The Cleo Yard are very, very good when they come over to the UK. They know where they're placing their horses, and this horse is a Grade 2 winner. Only 2 starts ago at Auteuil at the end of November. He then won at Pau at the start of February. The form is just so good. When he won at Auteuil in the Group 2, he beat a horse called Jemmy Bay by 2.5 lengths. Jemmy Bay was only beaten just less than 4 lengths by Milord Thomas, who won the Grand Steeple last May. That is the cream of the French crop, and Jemmy Bay is only just off that level, and Pythagore beat him 2 starts ago. The distance is not a problem. He can mix between steeplechases and hurdles. This should not be 11-1 on any sense. Like, it's a very interesting contender, but I think that he, as long as he takes the fences, which I think he will, I can't see there being a problem. He should be around somewhere shorter than, or around 5-1, about the same price as Artmaresque. 11-1 is a complete insult and is an absolute dream. So that's the only horse I'm really going to talk about, because this is a Grade 2 winner in a handicap, and he's not handicapped out of it at all. He's 11 stone 8. He's at the front door. It helps him being in it, as it gives him £4. But that only means he's only giving 5 to Semetegal, who is just not that level, in my opinion. If Pythagore reproduces this, he wins this.
It's probably better for Pythagore as well. He's got Felix de Giles, who is now based over in France, but he also Felix de Giles, from his days over here in England, will know Newbury like the back of his hand. He rode here plenty of times when based, I think, with Nicky Henderson. He may have been with Charlie Longston for a few years as well. But Pythagore, to be honest, I don't know a great deal about the horse, but I have to respect and bow down to your superior French knowledge about him. An 11-1, it could well be an each way price off a mark of 148. However, you did mention the other one I do fancy in Semetegal for Paul Nicholls and Sam Twiston Davis. 143, I think, is a very lenient mark about Semetegal, a horse that was better than that over hurdles. I think he will make a better chaser than he was hurdler as well. Given time, also, he's only a 7-year-old still, so there could be plenty more left in the locker. But this is one of my main fancies of the day. If you take out his form, his last maybe 2, not the run 3 outings ago, because he came down behind 3 Musketeers, but he beat that rival at Huntingdon on his chase debut. 2 outings ago, though, he was behind more of that, beaten 13 lengths in total honesty in this handicap company, in beaten that amount of distance by more of that isn't the worst form in the world. And I still can't get my head around how he didn't win last time at Musselburgh. He led for the whole way except the last maybe couple of yards when 5 in a row got up on the outside. He had to make the running that day in a small 4-runner field. It's not ideal for him whatsoever. Tomorrow he'll be able to take a lead, and he shouldn't be folding up, getting closer to the line. And Sam Twiston Davis should have a much easier time on him, as long as his jumping holds up, which I don't really see any reason why it shouldn't. His only trip, a visit to Newbury over fences, did result in him unseating his rider, but he's got a bit more experience since then. He's jumped around Cheltenham, jumped around Musselburgh perfectly. I think tomorrow could be a really big day for Semetegal in his chasing career. Of the rest, I'm finding it hard to see anything else really getting into it. The likes of Off the Ground is very talented, but he has severe jumping issues for me. He's come down in 2 of his last 4 outings. I wish Bill Esdale best of luck with Off the Ground. This is part of the syndicate that do own the Charlie Longston representative. I think Little John could potentially be one. If he does come back to a bit of form, he'd be the one to serve it mostly up to Semetegal, potentially Pythagore as well.
He likes Newbury as well.
But I mean, he'll probably be up there pressing the pace. Wayne Hutchinson's an interesting jockey booking for Nigel Twiston Davis. Obviously, his son Sam is retained by Paul Nicholls on Semetegal. I think Little John could potentially be one to spoil it from the front, but I'd be disappointed if Semetegal was too far away tomorrow. But as I say, I have to respect Michael and everything that he said about Pythagore with that French knowledge. As we now go to Doncaster for their feature race of the day, and indeed the whole feature race of the day on Channel 4 Racing. 3:45 is the Bet-Bright Grimthorpe Chase, so 3 miles, 2 furlongs and 14 yards. The first thing that comes to your head, Michael, when you see this race, you see 7 runners with Ikarodu Road a non-runner. This is disappointing.
Yeah, we said this off air before. For a Grimthorpe Chase to only be 7 runners is not really how you picture a Grimthorpe Chase in your head. When you think of a Grimthorpe Chase, you think of a really big handicap with a lot of runners. I know there was only 12 last year, but I thought that was a small field, really. I think about 12 to 18 is 12 to 16 perhaps is what you expect. So yeah, this has been really disappointing. It's a select field. You've got some really good horses in here, like Dropout Joe, who absolutely loves Doncaster. He's got some really good form here. Druid's Nephew won at the festival last year and was unlucky when he fell in the Grand National himself. Sego Success obviously won 2 starts ago and then fell last time. You didn't really see his true running there, but it's gonna be a full house from us in this scenario, because I think the Last Samurai is so overpriced at 3-1. The only horse I can see giving him a chance is the Druid's Nephew. That depends if he's fully clued up. I don't think the Druid's Nephew needs anything to get into the Grand National. I think he's in the Grand National.
That's
as far as I'm aware. So he doesn't need to run well here. It's just something to give him just a pipe opener really before the national itself. I don't think he's running at the festival, the Druid's Nephew. I think he's going straight to the national, as far as I'm aware. So the Last Samurai, though, who is going to the national, that's his main aim from the Kim Bailey yard. But he's in such good form. Obviously, the Wakanda form has been well advertised from Newcastle, and then he went on to beat Viva Steve at Kempton over December. That is good enough form to win here, really, unless Druid's Nephew is on the top of his game. That is definitely good enough form to win here. Obviously, beat Opening Batsman and a few other horses who have run well since. So yeah, the Last Samurai at 3-1 for Kim Bailey and David Bass. They're good at this course. The horse is very resilient. I think the extra distance will only help him, and I think this horse is a nice one for the national itself. And the Last Samurai wins this. The only horse I can see beating is the...
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with you in that regard. I think Kim Bailey's been sort of umming and ahhing whether this is the year to send the Last Samurai to Aintree. He's finally come down on the side that this is the year for the Last Samurai to go to Aintree. Could well go next year as well, handicap marks permitting and everything else permitting, really. But 11-4, 3-1, I think is a massive price about him. He's a horse that should be about 7-4, maybe even shorter than that. His form, well, recent form anyway, is miles ahead of anything else that anything in the field has shown. Dropout Joe, you have to respect. He was second in this race 12 months ago. He's been off for 119 days. His form has gone to new heights this year. You have to respect that. But off the back of an absence, he may find life a little bit tough, and especially with a mark of 151, he may find life very much harder off that sort of mark. The Last Samurai's got up £9 for that Kempton win last time. I think he could have gone up more for that, if I'm being perfectly honest. Viva Steve has run well since. I think Opening Batsman as well advertised that form really well in the Bet Bright Chase, the Racing Post Chase, the Racing Plus Chase, whatever you want to call it, that was run just last week. But the Opening Batsman matched them for a lot of strides, was still there at 2 out, just fading at the last, and then faded really badly on the run-in. While he was fading, the Last Samurai was getting better and better and better the further he went. It's going to be more of a stamina test around Doncaster, a slight step up in trip. Everything's pointing towards another massive run from the Last Samurai. Kim Bailey and David Bass, Cheltenham Festival winners together with Dana last season, 149. That mark is not beyond the Last Samurai whatsoever. I think 3-1 is a huge price about him in what looks to be a really disappointing and a really, really below average Grimthorpe chase, especially with now only the 7 runners. We have first 2 placings for what's one of the feature races of Doncaster's jump season, really, with the Grimthorpe. But as Michael said, the Druid's Nephew, I'd imagine, will be running a lot better tomorrow afternoon. The weights are out for the Grand National. He can breathe. He's in. He's got his weight. Everything's fine in that regard. He doesn't have to worry about going up any further in the handicap. I imagine he'd be the one to chase home the Last Samurai. But I think, Michael, you're very much in agreement with this. I'd be so disappointed if the Last Samurai was getting beaten tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I just can't look past him. It's just everything leans towards him, and it would be a shame. I could understand if the Druid's Nephew was on his top game, he could beat him, but I don't think he'll be at quite that level tomorrow. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's all that race we've got to cover on Channel 4 Racing tomorrow. We do have also Super Saturday at Meydan. We're not going to touch on that myself and Michael, but as you know, we do usually have Callum Liddell, who is Timeform's Meydan expert, on the panel. He's not on with us tonight, but he has sent his sports letter, so I'll read them out for you now. He says, Drubas should win the opener. Kefar are worth chancing each way, albeit it is just 6 runners, so first 2 your places there. But Kefar worth the chance each way. The sprint is between Sir Maximilian and Gold Dream. Gold Dream having his first run over at Meydan this year. The Alcor sprint will be his overall aim. Le Bernardine, and in Callum's word, will win the rubbish dirt sprint. Postponed and Darien is a match. Mubtahij to bounce back and will win the feature, but Watershed is not to be underestimated. And Trista will win the last. So Callum taking on Keen Ice. The horses he's siding with, Druba Self-Ratnam's horse in the opener. Kefar each way in the next, albeit there are 6 runners. He did allude to that. So Maximilian and Gold Dream have the sprint between them. La Bernardine, another fairly confident selection of his Postponed and Darien and Mubtahij, and also Trista in the last. Thank you very much to Callum for sending over his thoughts for Meydan Super Saturday tomorrow after noon. We will touch on the questions. We'll do the questions now, actually, I think, Michael, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
I've got to find the first one now.
Not that I have any real decision in that decision making process. That was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, pretty much. Kev the Punter is the first question in. He says, if Jackadam stayed on his feet and won at Cheltenham on Trials Day, do you think he'd be the Gold Cup favourite? I think undoubtedly he'd be the favourite. I mean,
obviously,
he was, I think, 4-1 favourite at the time.
I think I was actually sat in Cheltenham press room, and I remember Coral or someone putting a slip down on my paper, and it went, Jackadam has drifted from 7-2 to 9-2, basically before the race had even finished, and Vautour had gone favourite about 4-1, I think. Not much between them, but yeah, as a result, he drifted as a result, and I think he would have shortened possibly just a little bit, not much, but I think he would have shortened if he stayed on his feet.
I think after the Argento or the Cotswold Chase or the Bet Bright Chase, whatever you want to call it, if he would have won that, I think he'd be about 5-2 at the time. He may have drifted closer to the time because this is a very hot Gold Cup, and obviously you've got the rumour mill and the gravy train and whatever else you want to call it with the preview nights. But I think he would have been about 5-2 after the race. I think 3-1 around now, that would have been his price. But that's all speculation completely, and it's something that we don't really need to spend too much time talking about. Kev then goes on to say, if Annie Power wins the Champion Hurdle, can she possibly go back to the Mares Hurdle in 2017? It's a possibility. I think if she won it, it wouldn't... Go on,
carry on.
Well, no, I was going to say, if she won it, for all that, well, Rich Ritchie was on ATR a bit earlier on, and he said this year's the year for her. Like, she's getting a bit older in her career now. She's not going to have a massive amount of time left, and ultimately, I imagine they will want to breed from her. But if she does win the Champion Hurdle this year, and it is a severe possibility, I doubt she would ever go back for the Mares Hurdle, especially with the likes of Vroom Vroom Mag, maybe even Lamini as well, that's coming through for Rich Ritchie. I imagine she would be then eating at the top table for the rest of her career.
Yeah, but it's a really good question, because I think what's more likely is they should probably go to the World Hurdle, because she's probably, as she gets older, her stamina is probably going to develop. I personally, I'd have doubts about Annie Power winning this year. I know this, if there's one year she's going to win it, this is the year. But I think it's hard to mess around with a horse's stamina quite as much as they're doing. And I think there are some decent horses in there. My gentle yours, that could, perhaps beat her, or if they're on the going days. Personally, can she go back to the Mares Hurdle? Yeah, he's got so much firepower. I can't see in a million years. Maybe I'm wrong here, because Vautour versus Jackadam, that's going to happen. Rich Ricky thinking, I've got Forheen, I've got Annie Power. Let's just race them against each other, when Annie Power's a shoe-in to win the Mares, basically. Well, if she can stay on her feet. Yeah,
well, but then you've got to take into account as well, they have got Vroom Vroom Mag, Lamini as well. Lamini's, the way Rich Ritchie's been talking about Lamini, he absolutely adores her. He says she's his banker of the entire Cheltenham Festival. So you'd have to take that into account. It's something that's worth debating another day anyway. It's something we'll find out in the future. But first things first, Annie Power does actually have to win the Champion Hurdle.
Yeah, I think World Hurdle's probably more open then, because apart from Vroom Vroom Mag, we don't know what they're all up in the air. They're so good. The horses are so good. They're flexible, it seems, to what races they can go to. But I do think the World Hurdle possibly is likely, considering the Lamini and etc. in the Mares. But anything can happen. We all know that.
Yeah. Let's take into account as well, Annie Power has been second in the World Hurdle, and also Thistlecrack has already come out. Regardless what happens in the World Hurdle, he's going to go over fences next year, and he's going to go for the Gold Cup as a novice. So we do have that to take into account. But we'll see in the future what Annie Power does. Final thing from Kev the Punter is just a continuation of what he said about Annie Power. Says, I'd love to see her emulate Dawn Run and go chasing and be the second horse to do the Champion Hurdle and Gold Cup double. Whether chasing is really on the cards with Annie Power, that remains to be seen. It would be interesting, but we'll see in due course. Tony Amato has tweeted in saying, Cultivator in the Newbury Bumper is the bet for tomorrow at 4-1. I'm not one to talk down your fancies in bumpers, but I do think the Fry Horse Bags Groove is a very, very good horse in that bumper. But best of luck with Cultivator. RMB, I apologise, I don't know your name, RMB. On Instagram, you are chopped off.
Music. It's a type of music, mate.
RMB, M for Michael.
Oh, right.
He says, regarding to the best bets he's got for the Cheltenham Festival, a large steak, spelt as in the meat, so it's a lot of meat on the Thistlecrack, 3-1. You can't see it being beaten. Famous last words. Thistlecrack will not be beaten if he stands up in the World Hurdle, and I cannot see Thistlecrack getting beaten in the World. And he says Jackadam at 14-1. What a Gold Cup! I'm envious of your Jackadam bet at 14s. I think I'm only on at 8s or 10s, but envious of that 14-1. I do think Jackadam still wins the Gold Cup.
No, but yeah.
No complaints about those bets anyway.
They're good. My terrible bet from last year, if you want to know, is I had an accumulator on 5 horses. 2 of them it doesn't matter. Well, no, actually 3 of them doesn't really matter. But the worst 2 is I had Coneygree at 12-1 for the RSA, and I had Uxixondra at 16-1 for the Champion Chase.
That's just a kick.
It's so tragic.
That hurts. That hurts big time. I think my worst bet this year is I backed Wait For Me in the Supreme Novices, and he cannot jump at all. I think he's going for the county. He's not even in the Supreme anymore. I had the one that hurts the most, I have to say. I had Fahine and Duvan in an 8-1 double. And that just, I still cry myself to sleep with that. I'm not going to lie. But moving on, we pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off. The Pollinator or the Polinator. A big fan of Don Poli, so I assume it's the Polinator. Saying my worst Cheltenham bet is the last part on Aka, Gibralfaro for the Triumph Hurdle. Can you ask, is he a dead duck? Best scenario at place? I think, and don't quote me on this, I think he's going for the Fred Winter potentially. So whether he's actually, whether he's got, well, I mean, Alan King's got so much for the Triumph. He's got So Royal, who I think wins it. He's got Who Dares wins as well. He what?
Yeah, I like So Royal as well. Yeah, it would make sense to, and also Gibralfaro. I think Gibralfaro just didn't like the fact that there was a proper pace on. Like the other races, he's just been able to quicken off, hasn't he? And he just couldn't deal with the fact that they went a proper gallop last time, and there wasn't anything there. I do like Zabia. Can't remember the names. I can't remember the name of the horse now. But honestly, I did watch it. I think that was a really good run, and I do like that horse a lot from what he showed then. But yeah, So Royal versus that one, Zabia.
Zubair, I think we're going to call it. That's okay with you. Yeah. I hate to see you try and say the favourite of the Triumph Hurdle, I won't lie. The Pollinator then goes on to say, can you ask the panel, is the Champion Hurdle winner possibly a boil over? Double price winner? Peace and Co does a Punjabi? From Shane. Thank you for getting in touch, Shane. I know, Michael, you're going to say my tent or yours.
Well, I don't. Right. Do you want the exclusive on my tent or yours from my tent or yours? You can advertise it that you had the exclusive from the horse himself. I'm really annoyed that he hasn't had a run, and he's been off for a long time. It's a long time to try and come back, and I think it's a really hard race too. But he looks physically very imposing. He still seems the same horse. He still pulls like an absolute train. But he looks so much thicker and bigger, and I'm just like, so I think Adam said to me, like, he's really looking forward to when he actually jumps over fences, because he looks like he'll properly, and he's such a good jumper as well. So I think that he's got a really good chance. Saying that, especially this year, because Fahine's out and Archify's out as well, I think he's got a good chance. Do I think he's 6-1? No, he should be about 10-1. But I do honestly think that he looks a really good horse. Fingers crossed. It's a lot of hope as well as belief. But I think Annie Power is beatable. Definitely beatable. I wouldn't say with Peace and Co though, because I never thought that form, Peace and Co top notch Hargam, the Triumph from last year, was ever any good anyway. So I don't think Peace and Co, but I do think that Annie Power is beatable.
It's one thing I want to say about my tent or yours with the size issue. I mean, he's always been a horse that's got a lot of scope. But I do think it might be a little bit exaggerated. Do take into account he was standing next to Hargam. Hargam's not big at all. He's an ex-French flat horse. So I think it may just be a little bit overstated that he's grown 10 hands. But I do take into account my tent of yours has been working to the eye very nicely at Kempton. Also take into account that Hargam's probably carrying 2 stone more than him with AP on board in that regard. But I do fancy one at a price actually in the Champion Hurdle. I know Callum does as well. It's Camping Ground at 25-1 is a ridiculous price, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
He absolutely bolted up in the rail kill over 2.5 miles. Speed, I wouldn't have that down as too much of a problem. You've got to stay very well to win a Champion Hurdle. He seemingly had plenty of speed when taking 2 lengths out of the field at every single hurdle in the rail kill. He just simply didn't stay 3 miles. And also probably wasn't as good as Thistlecrack, especially over that trip in the Cleve Hurdle on trials day. I think stepping down to 2 miles, as long as they run Camping Ground, 25-1 is an absolutely massive price. And he could be the one, along with Nichols Canyon, that takes them through the early part of the race. He's going to be staying on very nicely up the hill. 25-1, first 3 places, non-run and no bet. I can't see any fault in that bet whatsoever. I think Camping Ground is a very nice horse. If he does go for the Champion Hurdle, I think he'd be tough to beat, to be quite honest. But that's just me. I agree with Michael, though, that Annie Power is beatable. Tony Amato has then said, for the Cheltenham Festival, his banker is Barter's Hill. I've loaded up and I'll load up again. Also very sweet on Altior in the Supreme Novices. Best of luck with that, Tony. Phil Dinsdale has tweeted in saying, can What a Night give a stone to fingertips in the 2:35 at Doncaster? They were finishing tied at Doncaster today. It's going to be very testing tomorrow. Anyway, we've had a lot of rain up here as well.
The weather has been so bad up here. We're not that far away from Doncaster itself, and it snowed and then it rained, followed through, and most of Hyde Park is pretty soggy.
It's rained all day. It just hasn't stopped.
Yep.
Like it's going to be very tough work at Doncaster tomorrow. I have to say that. So do keep that in mind. If you're back in fingertips, who is still only a 4-year-old in handicap company. 4-year-olds can find that fairly tough. Alex Bellew says, not fantastic prices, but had to take the 2-1 on Thistlecrack offered by Betfair the other day. Fantastic bet, I think. 2-1.
Yeah.
I feel bad saying 2-1's value, but when you're talking about Thistlecrack, I think it's value.
Mm-hmm.
For me, anyway. Tony Martin then says, one more for the festival. Village Vic. I think this fella is one at a big price at 16-1. I assume that's in the Ryanair. I imagine so. But,
he's in a handicap. He is entered in one of the handicaps as well, or at least a couple of the handicaps, maybe the Burn Group plate, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I do like Village Vic and the way he jumps. If he gets out and gets an early lead, he'll probably put them to the fire. If he's up to that class, well, there's only one way to find out. So I can't put him off him. He's a very nice horse. Can't say any more really. I don't know.
Well, nothing he's done this season could put you off anything going forward anyway. He's earned his place in a Grade 1. Well, give it to him, to be quite frank. Alex Bellew said his best bet at the Cheltenham Festival is he's on My 10 or Yours at 16-1 earlier this season. That could be his best. Or Tombstone at 20-1. I assume that's for the Supreme. His worst bet is he's already lost on Diamond King for the Martin Pipe. Unlucky with Diamond King. You could probably make that back, though, if you still fancy him in the Coral Cup a little bit earlier on in the week. Tim McEwen says his best bet is Thistlecrack at 3-1. His worst is a treble with Ivanovic Gorbatov in the Triumph Hurdle. Not a bad start. Annie Power for the Mares and Faheen for the Champion Hurdle. That got downhill very, very quickly, unfortunately, with Tim McEwen. I have to say, the one that hurts me the most had 150-1 about Thistlecrack in the World Hurdle, Jacadam in the Gold Cup, Duvan in the Arkle, and Faheen in the Champion.
Is it just a fourfold?
Yeah, just a fourfold. I had 150-1, and I think it was about 25s when Faheen was ruled out. That still hurts. It still hurts. Phil Dinsdale says, I think this is my best bet that's left standing for Cheltenham. Not good when you're using the term that's left standing. That makes it implies that you've lost quite a few. But he's got a 5-fold on Thistlecrack, Hugh Card in the Gold Cup, obviously, Undersow, Barters Hill, and Yanworth. I think Yanworth, that's a good bet, actually. That would return.
That's quite good.
But that for £20, he's put that on a while ago as well. That would return just under 10 grand.
Yeah, I think you've got a decent chance with that. I think one will let you down, but I think you'll be all right.
I think the two that are beatable in that are Q Card and Undersow. I do think Undersow is very much beatable.
Barters Hill, I have to say, I'm slightly worried about if some horse challenges him and goes straight past him without him having a chance to respond. That is the weakness of Barters Hill. If you want to beat him, that's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why people were moronic to want him stepping back to the Neptune, because Yanworth, he'd go past him like he wasn't even there, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Well, Sean's already asked for our best and worst bets at the Cheltenham Festival. We've already given those out. Phil Dinsdale saying he's now setting the bet, saying I think we said it was good a few weeks ago actually. Bellshill at 12-1 in the Neptune and Faheen in the Champion Hurdle at even money. To be honest, I don't think Bellshill wins whatever he goes for at Cheltenham. I don't really rate Bellshill, to be quite frank. Nothing he's done this year suggests to me that he's as good as everyone said that he is throughout the course of this season. I don't like the way he jumps. I don't overly like the way he travels. He's got a lot to prove to me, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you feel the same about that, Michael. I'm being very harsh about the horse personally.
I don't really know who the horse is. I know that he's owned by Andrew and Graham Wiley, but I actually he's clearly not that good because he hasn't really come up on my radar. He hasn't done anything that's impressed me. So that's a bad sign. If I know who the horse is, that's a good sign.
I have to say, Michael is usually injured by uni life. So when horses are running, Michael's very rarely there. Mick Doonan has said Undersow's his only really big bet. He won't like me saying that I think Undersow's beatable then a second ago. What's your thoughts of Hollybush Henry in the county and Kustar Sivola in the Fred Winter? I've not got much of a view in the Fred Winter as of yet. I think Jazz Girls overpriced at 20-1. Hollybush Henry in the county. I think
Henry's a nice horse. That horse won at Doncaster, I think, when I was there. Won pretty well. I'm not sure if he's good enough to win a county, but he got a good.
I'm sure people are talking about Hollybush Henry as a potential outsider in a Champion Hurdle at some point.
Am I thinking about the right horse? I swear.
Yeah, no, you are, which is why it's absurd. He was about 100-1.
Well, he's not that good. He's got. I give him a sneak of a chance. I give him a sneak of a chance in a county. I wouldn't give him a chance in a Champion Hurdle.
No, absolutely not. Phil Dinsdale said the Last Samurai has to be a good thing tomorrow. Me and Michael agree that he is an absolute certainty tomorrow. So watch that one go downhill. John's Crowford. We'll call you John. So my crazy thing is Stephanie Francis will hit the frame if she runs in the mares. Likes Cheltenham and good form over hurdles. To be honest, the mares is a weird race. I mean, you could get many results as we saw last year. But go on, Michael.
Isn't she? She's entered in something else as well, or maybe I've just got confused.
I have to confess, I haven't seen the entries that Stephanie Francis has got. No, I think in the mares hurdle she'd be a little bit outclassed, but
yeah, I don't think she's quite of that class. If so, one of the handicaps perhaps. But no, I think there's a strength in depth in the core 3 or 4 in the mares that I think she's way off, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, she's not a room mag. She could pick up the pieces for 3rd place, but it wouldn't be for me. I'd put it that way.
If one of them underperformed, one of the kind of core 4, then she could place.
Derek Gamblepunt has asked if you believe in yourself.
Yes.
I'm not even sure what that means.
I think it's because do I believe that I can beat you in Michael versus Luke this week? And the answer is obviously. I wouldn't have created the
just saying. I am the reigning On the Other Hoof Cheltenham Festival champion, but whatever. Glenn Ledgerwood. Yeah. Now, Michael, you might not know this, but Glenn is a massive fan of On the Other Hoof. He found us on YouTube, and I believe that he started up his Twitter account just to follow On the Other Hoof, and we brought him into horse racing. So Glenn is a massive friend of the show. We're a big fan of Glenn.
He just doesn't know who I am because he's probably never seen me before.
Yeah. I don't know how long he's been watching, but Glenn, Michael, Glenn, nice to meet you. Glenn says, I can't wait for GS on Earth to begin.
What?
GS on Earth. Greatest show on Earth. Right. I can't wait for the greatest show on Earth to begin. I've discovered that I'm most excited about some of the handicaps. Am I a dick?
No, that's normal. Everyone loves handicaps. Handicaps are the best.
It's just the people again. Am I a dick?
Yeah. To be fair, I think I've got it all on because the Bayliss and Harding won the 3rd race of the festival. I've won for the last 2 years, so I've got to make sure that I pick the right horse this year. I think Hollywell's got another good chance, but there's another horse in there. There's another horse that I like in that, and I can't remember what it's.
I will say, if you want a handicap good thing at the Cheltenham Festival, next sensation, he's still double figures you can get in the Grand Annual. I think he's £1 higher than he was last year. He's an absolute certainty in the Grand Annual once again. Just as much as you can get on it, get on that horse. Derek Gamble
I backed him last year.
Yeah. What do you make of the Keen Ice price tomorrow and his Soul Power? A good thing. I haven't seen the price of Keen Ice, but Callum has taken him on. I think with Mubtahij a bit further down the line. I'm a massive Keen Ice fan from his exploits over in America. Obviously, the only horse to beat American Pharaoh. Whether he's going to be 100% ready to go first time, I know that they schooled him out in Dubai. That means something completely different as well. Just took him around, seeing the scenery. Obviously, he's had a few racecourse gallops as well out in Dubai. Whether he's going to be 100% ready to go, I'm not 100% sure. Plus, do take into account it's over a mile and 2 furlongs. It'll be suited by the way the race is going to be run. They're going to go a fairly good clip throughout. That could play into his hands, but he won't come to his best until he's upped in trip a bit. This might be a little bit on the sharp side for him, but we do have to take into account he's got a very good jockey booking, a very eye-catching one as well, with Ryan Moore. I think it's Javier Castellano who's going to be riding him in the World Cup. So do keep that in mind with Keen Ice tomorrow afternoon. Private Sean has said that the prize nobody wants is today spend a day with Ferris.
I've actually done that. I think I've done that before, so I've already. Yeah,
it wasn't a prize.
Yeah.
Glenn Ledgerwood has said, "I fancy Samatigal and just a par and a double. Take just a par out of that. Like you can't. I can't keep doing myself. Just a par." And Blackflower in the 4 o'clock is of interest. Best of luck with that, Glenn. Lee Armstrong says that Michael, you look like you're on crack.
Oh, great! Cheers. Well, I have been ill, so we're going to blame that.
Wait, Michael, are you on crack?
I'm going to ignore what you're implying there and carry on and say no. I don't do drugs. Drugs are bad.
I don't do drugs outside of the weekend. Phil Dinsdale celebrated the tax dodger being back. Welcome back, Michael.
Oh yeah, I am still tax dodging. Tell him that I'm doing it for an extra year. I'm doing it in Melbourne next year, so it's going to be another one that he can pay for. Cheers.
He can hear you. It's not as if I'm talking to the dead. He can hear you.
No, I know. Yeah, no, I'm aware. It's called acting.
Glenn Ledgerwood has sent in a couple more tweets as well, saying, I think my best bet for Cheltenham is Hollywell or Arbor de Vie in their respective handicaps. Do keep an eye on Hollywell. He will probably be going for a handicap, but he has also got the Grand National entry as well. Do keep that in account when backing Hollywell. The worst at odds, Thistlecrack. I don't know about my best bets this year, but a few years ago, this is splendid after timing. Although I think maybe before Twitter existed, saying I did have over 100 to 1 on Alfaroff in the Supreme Novices. Outstanding, that is. Over 100 to 1 on Alfaroff to win the Supreme when he won it. His worst one.
Have you ever heard the story of when I backed Protectionist at 150 to 1 for the Melbourne Cup?
Time and place, Michael. Time and place. His worst one, he's got Moonracer at 8 to 1 in the Supreme.
Oh, that's not good.
Final question in. Phil Dinsdale has asked a serious question this time, saying, are we doing a Cheltenham Fantasy Tips the competition? We most likely will be.
I was just thinking this. I'll set up a Telegraph one for On the Other Hoof.
It's something myself and Adam were talking about the other night.
Oh, okay. Well, someone else can do it, but we'll do one.
Yeah, Adam has already volunteered to do it through me. But we will be doing something. So Phil, do take account of our Twitter page. We will be putting any details up on that. And do get involved as well. It should be a good bit of fun throughout the whole of the Cheltenham Festival week, which starts, I can't believe it, 10 days until the Cheltenham Festival. That brings us on to our next point. We do have a couple of Cheltenham Festival previews that are lined up. We were meant to do our first one just yesterday evening. However, things didn't really go right. We did have Nick Schofield lined up for that. Hopefully we can get him back on a later, on a video maybe next week at some point. We will keep you up to date on that on our Twitter page. Also, we will have a couple more. I think Tom Stanley from RUK will be joining us for one. And also, we're still trying to get Josh Moore on for a Novice Chase preview a little bit later on. But obviously, everything that's gone on with the yard is perfectly understandable if he didn't want to come on over the past few weeks. That is all the questions and fancies that we have time for this evening. The only thing left, Michael, is to sort out our naps for tomorrow. Michael is maybe not here anymore. The Last Samurai is going to be my nap. I'm not sure what Michael is going to be. If he does come back while I'm talking, then great. If not, we will tweet his nap a little bit later on. Do take account of what Callum said a little bit earlier on as well regarding Maidan. Is absolutely fantastic knowledge on Dubai for tomorrow's Super Saturday card. A brilliant card as well. As for On the Other Hoof, though, my nap is The Last Samurai in the Grimthorpe Chase. We'll be back next week, though, when we have Sandown to preview for their Imperial Cup card. And then it's on to the big one. The Cheltenham Festival is just 10 days away. Do join us here at On the Other Hoof throughout the course of next week for our Cheltenham Festival previews. Also join us next week for our Imperial Cup preview of Sandown, the final stage before the Cheltenham Festival. Thank you for watching this evening. We'll be back next week. Until then, goodbye.